Hi, guys. Welcome to Real Food Recovery. We are back with a special repeat guest that I was thrilled to be able to have today. I want to introduce Laura Eiman, and I want to tell you a little bit about her before we get started. Um, she starts out by telling us, I was not always a winner. Heck, I was a loser for decades, a sugar addict and junk food junkie for over 40 years. I shouldn't even be alive today. My epitaph would have read Death by Donuts and Dove Bars. 25 years ago, overweight, newly divorced, without direction, and unemployed, I began studying the mindset of Navy SEALs, Olympic athletes, and Greek philosophers. I developed a unique mental confidence program to overcome my negative attitude, lack of direction, and life threatening sugar addiction for good. Wow, did I get results! I started winning in many areas of my life. Today, at age 72, I am 25 years off sugar and junk food. I continue to win in many areas of my life because daily I possess an invincible confidence in myself. I think like a Navy SEAL and practice the never quit habits of Olympians. I love that about you. And people listening to that would think, well, that's great. She did it. She's special. She's got some unique abilities. I could never do what she did. Do you want to talk before we really dive in a little bit more so that people understand that you don't wear a red cape every day? You're just a regular girl that was in a place that made a decision. And if you can do it, they can do it too. Do you want to talk about your story in depth a little bit more?
Sure, 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 sure. And you said three very important words, made a decision.
Oh, totally.
And
It
we're
all
going
starts
to
from
really
there.
take a deep dive into that because every life-changing experience starts with our mindset, and it's I made a decision. But
Mhm.
yeah, my life was in the gutter. I'm an ordinary person, just like everybody else. There is nothing special about me. But now I occasionally do extraordinary things, not every day. I got lots of ups and downs in my days, just like everybody else. I got lots of bad days, I got lots of good days. But, back then, I'm 72 now, for the first 48 years of my life, I was just in a mental and physical gutter. And the sugar addiction started at the time, 5, 6 years old. And you hear that about
Yeah.
people talking about their addictions. Oh, I by mistake took a little sip of my mother's cocktail and I was 7 years old and that was it. Game over. I was an addict. You hear but I dove into the sugar and I can remember 5, 6, 7, 8 years old, my eating patterns. I didn't have any idea what it was. But I became a very angry adult. And if I wasn't angry, I was depressed. Therapists say that anger is the flip side of the coin of depression. Depression is the flip side of anger. But for certain reasons, variety of reasons, I became very, very angry. And eating was a way to turn off the anger or rather squash it.
Numb.
And I'd eat until I was so miserable and so bloated and ready to throw up. I never quite got that far. But sure enough, it distracted me from my anger, but not for very long, Paige, only for a few
Hmm.
hours. So I'm just a regular person. But I also believe not only in making a decision, but before we make a decision, I believe in hitting bottom.
Hmm.
And for your listeners, hitting bottom is so painful, but it can also be the catalyst that allows you to say, I'm done. I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. Sometimes, if we don't hit our bottom, we never hurt enough to make the change. And we stay in that river of misery. And I have a great compassion for those people. I encourage
Totally.
you to hit bottom. But I was newly divorced and I went over to my neighbor's house one day. The kids were with their dad and I was eating a box of, Oreos and I had nothing to do. So I went over to my neighbor's house to bother them and hang out. And my neighbor Dan was sitting in their den watching a documentary on TV and I didn't want to go home, so I just sat next to Dan. I said, "What are you watching?" And he said, "Shh, Laura, I'm watching a documentary on the Navy SEALs." Well, I didn't have any idea who they were, and I really didn't
Hmm.
care. They looked like guys in the Army and or Navy. And but I just sat there eating my way through a column of Oreos, but I kind of started to lean in towards the TV. And I looked at Dan and I said, "Wow, who are these guys?" I mean, they are I kind of got sucked in. They're mentally tough people. They have integrity. They take care of themselves. They take care of each other. They have a tremendous purpose in life.
Yeah.
They're motivated. They're strong. Uh, Not to mention they're looking pretty good, looking pretty hot in a uniform. And and I said, "Dan, I want what these guys have.
Yeah.
I wanna be them." He said, "Oh, what are you on some kind of sugar high? You gonna join
Yeah.
the Navy SEALs at the age of 48?" And I kinda looked at him and I thought, "Yeah, why not?" And I got up and I threw the bag of cookies in his lap, and I went home and I hit, my deepest bottom yet. And I'd had a lot of deep bottoms. But there was something about that day and that experience that caused me to say, I'm going to make a decision. I didn't care about me or my life. I cared about my kids, my two little
Yeah.
children. I had just, I just had tremendous apathy and anger, but I love my children. So I did it for them, of course. And that was May 20th of 2000. And I haven't eaten a chocolate chip cookie or a cakes, cookies, ice cream in 25 and a half years. And it's because the next day, this was before we had social media and the internet was just starting. I went to the library and I started to read up on who these guys were, these SEALs. And I started to read biographies and I realized, I don't like war. I don't understand guns, but I liked their mindset. And I mean, for everybody who's listening, I'm deeply grateful for our military and how they do keep us safe and so that I can sleep at night protecting our country. But I didn't like war or guns, but I gravitated to them because they were so mentally tough and I was such a mental weenie. And then I thought, well, let's study the Olympic athletes because I love sports. And can you imagine any two groups that are more determined and
Yeah.
fail a lot, but get up and keep going and know
Yeah.
how to keep going and develop resilience and have integrity?
Yeah. I love what you said about you had motivation with your children. My daughter had sent me something the other day that she saw on social media, and it said, either deal with your demons or they will raise your children.
Oh,
I'm like, oh,
oh,
that hit me right solid in the chest. I'm going to say it one more time. Either deal with your demons or they will be raising your children. Don't
oh,
you agree with that?
that is magnificent. I love
Totally.
where that came from. I have to write that one down.
Yeah, that is a writer downer. Everybody, we'll pause for a second while you get a pen down. But don't
How's
you
your
find
daughter? How's your daughter?
she's good? She has four little kids and she's
How
always
old is
looking.
she? How old
Oh,
is she?
how old is she? She's 33.
Uh-huh.
But yes, yeah, but she's got four children ages 7 to 4. And so a set of twins and then 2-year-old twins and then two boys after that. So they're all within 4 years. So
Oh boy, she's got her hands full.
she's always scouring the internet for parenting, sage
Yeah,
parenting
yeah.
advice.
Oh my gosh.
So yeah, I thought that was, and it applies to everything, whether it's your children or workmates or whatever. In other
Mhm.
words, the devil's running the show.
Yes,
We don't
beautiful.
want the devil to run the show. We don't want the inner child to run the show. We don't want the rebellious teen to run the show because they can't make adult decisions. We want responsible adults running adult lives, right? Because otherwise you're going to be in a heap of mess. It's very dangerous otherwise. So I love that. And I love what you said too about the mindset when it comes to sobriety because it does have to start there. I was just speaking on the Quit Sugar Summit with Mike Collins a few weeks ago, and he had asked me about the first time that I was successful in getting off sugar, just like you threw the cookies down and that was it for you. He said, how'd you do it? And I said, the number one thing was I made a decision.
Mm.
I made a decision. But to be the full story is I'd made that decision 100 other times, but I was ready this time. I don't want to be pompous and say, well, I just decided and that was it. There was more to it. I had tried 100 other diets and done 100 different things. But you mentioned I was just ready. I was just ready because I had tried all these other things and failed so many times. And I loved what you said about the lessons learned at rock bottom. And in fact, I was going to ask you, do you think there's more learning that goes on at rock bottom than when you're at the top?
Oh, that's a good question. If you're open to it, you can learn
Yes.
at the bottom or at the top. It's just the problem is when the sugar addiction or any addiction is running your show, you so totally believe that you can't live without it.
Oh,
Sugar was my
totally.
oxygen, and I didn't want to live without it. I wanted to be sloppy and fat and overweight, and it was an excuse to stay angry. But here's another phrase: the light switch is at the bottom of the stairs. And when you fall down the stairs enough and hit your head enough times, you get up and you turn the light switch on. You say, "Oh, I'm going to turn the light on."
Oh, that is a writer
Light
downer
switch
too.
is
Light
at the
switch, bottom
bottom.
of stairs.
So, really, for all your viewers, when the pain of staying the same or the pain of changing is less than the pain of staying the same, you say, okay, I think I'll change. But there's that mysterious leap of faith. I don't know what makes a person, yeah, we can say pompously, I made the decision. What is it that makes a person finally hit their bottom? I think that's the big mystery of addiction. And it's, I think, a cruel mystery. How come I got lucky enough and you got lucky enough to make the decision and get out and get over it?
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah.
don't have the answer to that. And, this is an environment where I want to speak the real truth. It doesn't
Yeah.
mean that your listeners can't say, you know, darn it, I'm done and move on. There's just a little bit of mystery to it, you know.
I agree with that. And that's why I try to put out an educational reel video every day. And I used to say at Real Food Recovery, we help people who are suffering from ultra processed food addiction, sugar addiction. But now I have changed that to say that we're helping people move away from sugar and process addiction. It doesn't need to be so hard and fast, black and white. Sometimes we just do harm reduction for a while, or we find out what's killing you most. It may not be food. It may be sleep. It may be movement. It may be relationships. And sometimes we need to work on that first, and then we'll work on the food. You don't have to start with the food always, but yeah, so I like your point a lot. And it doesn't have to just be a stark black and white from today moving forward. I'll never touch this ever again. That
It
scares
depends.
people.
Everybody's different. And yes, it does scare people. It
Yes.
does depend. I respectfully disagree with a little bit of what you say. If you're a full-blown addict, a little bit of alcohol every Saturday night isn't going to work because you can't
Right.
control it. So I think for your listeners with the food and the processed food, we have to really know ourselves. I mean, because I say to a
Hmm.
lot of women who are kind of threatened when they hear that I'm 25 years off of all processed sugar, I say, but that doesn't mean you have to do it. You got to get to know yourself first. So maybe three-quarters of your listeners need to get to know themselves and say, can I control it or can I not?
Hmm.
Maybe I don't have to go cold turkey and never ever touch it again. Me, Laura, I had to, but that doesn't mean you have to. But there are going to be people who have no control, and for them, it is black and white. For the others, it's shades. So there's two categories.
I'm so grateful you brought that point up because for me, I can't mess around with sugar. So know thy triggers is my commandment. And I know I can't have any leverage with that because it's either the switch is on or off. But with other things, let's say I'm on vacation with my family and they're having pizza. I can have that and that won't
Yeah, don't
do
trigger.
anything. Nah, I mean, I'll go back to my normal eating. That's the monsters don't come out of the closet
Beautiful.
with,
That's know thyself. Yeah, know thy
yeah,
triggers. I
yeah,
love that, Paige.
you've got to know thy triggers. So, but you're right. For when it comes to sugar, that's the only thing that I tell people generally, you do have to go cold turkey off. You can't titrate off that, but you might be able to cut back on junk food or soda pop or caffeine or
Yeah.
trips to McDonald's, things like that, we can kind of work our way out of that so it's less harm reduction. And actually, we also start let's replace it. Instead of saying we're getting rid of something, let's just start working more things in so it's just a natural way. Like, let's make sure we get 8 glasses of water in instead of saying, I want to take you off caffeine and soda. Let's
Yeah.
work on working things in first and see how that just naturally takes care of itself. But anyway, we've gotten a little bit off of sidetrack of the questions that I wanted to talk about today. But I love this conversation because it's just so real and so raw and so true. And I'm sure people are leaning in that are listening right now. And before we move any further, I have to tell people that are just on audio and can't see Laura. In her background, she has her bike with her helmet. And I just have to chuckle that that's just so reflective of who she is. And we talk a lot about environment when we're recovering and setting up your environment for success. Her environment is structured so that she has a nice little bicycle reminder there of what her daily habits are. So I just really appreciate that
Yeah.
background noise back there of saying, I'm an exerciser. So, one of the things that we really wanted to talk about and express today is how grateful, where gratitude lies in this journey, and that she has talked about how she's been abstinent for sugar for 25 years, which is very remarkable, especially in the environment that we live in. And so I wanted to ask her, what surprises you most about how your gratitude for that one decision has literally changed the entire trajectory of your life
Yeah.
over time?
Right. Great question. Gratitude gets a lot of attention these days, and
Mm-hmm.
it can be tiresome to talk about it. People can, oh, here we go again, the gratitude lecture or whatever. I got to be grateful. Or it's a cliche, but there's a
Mm-hmm.
reason for that, and that is because it works. And I feel in this hustle culture, and especially with social media and AI and all the stuff going on in the world that's so complicated and scary, gratitude is such a fundamental tool. And if we lose that tool, we have really lost our balance. Gratitude keeps us humble and keeps us remembering, I want what I have, as opposed to, is it I want what I have? I want what I have is, or is it I have? I always get this confused. I want what I have. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
grateful for all that I have. Sorry, I'm tripping over that.
Yeah.
Um, and especially with the abstinence off sugar, there have been a million times since my abstinence when I have said, "Oh my God, I am so grateful. I am not, my nose is not in the cookie dough. I would be dead. I am so grateful." It could be a rainy day out. It could be we've got a blizzard and we're locked in for 2 days. It could be a death in the family. It could be I'm angry at somebody, or I a million reasons to just hit the sugar. And I would have done that all the time, and to not have that horrendous monkey on my back makes me
Yes.
so grateful. And I hesitate talking to people about it, but you and I agreed we would talk about it here because I don't want to be on my soapbox saying, "Oh, you should." It's just a genuine return on your investment. When you work hard on something, you want a return on your investment.
Yeah.
This is such a huge return on your investment. And yet
Yes.
you can't imagine it because you're so deep in the shit of of
Mm-hmm.
addiction. So I'm here to say, if it's possible for you to be open-minded, if it's possible for you to be gutsy enough to say, I'm sick and tired, I'm going to make the decision, and it's possible for you to make that leap of faith, the return on your investment is so freaking unbelievably
Yeah.
good. It's everything they say it is and more. Doesn't mean your life is perfect and everything is, rainbows and cream-colored ponies. Life is still really hard.
Mm-hmm.
But man, I am not walking around with a belly full of shit and constipation and headaches and pimply
Yeah.
skin anymore and anger.
Yeah, and don't you think it positions you? You talked about life being hard. Don't you think when you're abstinent from sugar, it positions you in a different way to handle the hard stuff?
Well
Talk
said.
about a list of gratitude of things to be grateful for. It's just better positioning for war. You're
Right.
you've got
Right.
your armor on and you're able to tackle it because generally you've slept better. You've got movement in your life. You have better relationships. You have usually a spiritual or mindfulness practice. All those things that just make you a stronger human being.
Yeah.
Which, and when you were talking about using sugar, it made me think about what are the reasons people turn to it? I mean, the question becomes, what am I using this for in place of what I'm avoiding in my life? Why am I turning to that versus something else, a healthier practice that will get me further down the road? I don't know if you want to talk about that or say anything.
That's a great reason. I think first of all, I believe, and your listeners are feel free to disagree, but I believe we are not born saying, I want to screw up my life and
Yeah.
become a sugar addict. I believe we're born with the addiction. Okay. That's my belief. And so it kind of blindsides you at the age of 5 or 10 or 15 or 20. Think about kids going to college and they have a drink for the first time and they go, holy cow, this is frickin' paradise. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Nobody wants to be in the gutter in their life, but it takes them down. And then their personal life circumstances, they may have, good times, bad times, medium times, whatever, influence them to say, "Ugh, I don't want to feel my feelings. I'm going to move away and drink or eat or spend or do porn or whatever instead." And a lot
Mm-hmm.
of these things are supported in our culture. I mean, not necessarily the porn, but like buy this, buy that. Retail
Yeah.
therapy, we laugh at it, but man, those markets want ladies to spend like crazy, and all the super cute commercials on TV to buy these Frito corn chips or this sugary something or other. Are you kidding? You're going to be so happy and cute and perky when you eat this stuff. So there's plenty of opportunities to be supported in your addiction, but I think we're born that way, and what makes us that way is we just fall into it from our circumstances. It's the day we wake up and say, I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired,
Totally.
that we say,
Totally.
why am I doing this? Well, I want to screw up my life. Now, there's some people that do not want to get well. And they may even be people in your recovery program. They think they want to get well. And I say this very lovingly and compassionately because I was one of them for a long time.
Yeah.
I want to be healthy. I want to be well. I'm sitting in the front row listening to Paige's podcast. But then they go back to the eating, and it's because there's something deep inside of them that's saying, no, I don't want to grow up. I really
Yeah.
don't want to grow up. And I
Mm-hmm.
understand that. That
Mm-hmm.
kept me that kept me eating for another decade before I decided.
Oh, totally. Me too. It was my mid 50s before I even understood that I had an addiction. Nobody had talked about it. I didn't know what it was.
Well,
I heard the verbiage of it and I'm like, that sounds familiar, what they're talking, that maybe that's it. My girlfriends weren't talking about sh having these sugar binges, and I wasn't telling people
yeah.
that that was going on. So, yeah, you
Wow.
just stay stuck. And quite frankly, I wanted out of it and I wanted to figure out how to stay in it at the same time. I wanted
Well
to,
said.
yeah, I wanted to be free from the monsters coming out and getting me a couple times a month, but I also didn't want to give it up. So I spent so much time and energy trying to figure out how to have both things. And so that's why I went to like plant-based sweeteners and figured out recipes I could do with that so I could still keep it that way and, be healthy because they were plant-based sweeteners and not raising my blood sugar, but it still kept the cravings alive. So I would still have those binges once or twice a month. So it got me closer to where I wanted to be. I've got a blog, Food Fitness by Paige, and I've got like over 2,000 recipes on it. And a lot
Wow.
of those still have those plant-based sweeteners, which of course I would rather have you on monk fruit than white table sugar, but it's still a drug and the body still is looking for calories when the plant-based sweeteners comes in, and it does keep those taste buds alive and jonesing for the sweet stuff. But
Mm,
anyway, circling back around to gratitude, don't you think it actually changes like the chemistry on a cellular level in our body
of
when we
course,
operate?
absolutely. everything changes on a cellular level, whether it be good or bad. Our cells run the show. They're the
Yeah.
building blocks of our, yeah.
They're listening.
Yep, they're listening.
They are. I think they're listening to every feeling, every thought,
So
everything that you experience.
yep, yep,
So when life, I'm assuming that you use the sugar like a lot of people when life gets stressful. So what have you found that now where you've shifted to where when you're in hard moments in life and you don't have sugar as the crutch,
yeah.
what does life look like for you now? How do you handle those tough
That's a
situations?
really important question for your team here, your listeners. I'll start by saying when I made the decision to get off sugar and I started studying the mindset of the Navy SEALs, it was not an easy road. I had to do a 365-degree makeover mentally, physically, and spiritually. So not only did I read and study their mindset, but I got into therapy because I realized, oh, I'm eating because I'm angry. And then I was a cardio athlete, but I never lifted any weights. And I went to the gym and I hired a personal trainer and I said, I need to ramp up my physical fitness program because I'm replacing sugar with healthy food, but I need to change my mindset and I need to change my muscles and I need to get into a routine because we really need those endorphins to make us feel good on days when we want to binge. And then I started going to church and I had a church journey for a while. And what else? There was one other thing. Oh, and then I made sure that I started to get a lot of sleep. Now, this was not
Yeah.
a nice, neat package. This I kind of failed forward. I fumbled into it. Even though I didn't eat any more sugar, I was experimenting. I tried a couple therapists. The first two didn't work. It took me a third. I wasn't sure about God, but I was still going to church. So it wasn't easy, but I was making sure that when I took away the sugar, I was going to replace it with something because nature abhors a vacuum. Whenever you eliminate something, you have to add something. Then I went to
Hmm.
Overeaters Anonymous and I did that for 5 years.
Mm.
Great. But I didn't have a program like yours. So what you're providing your people with is a very comprehensive program, which
Yes.
is outstanding. I didn't have that back then.
Right.
So your people are in very good hands with
Oh,
you because
thank you.
you are replacing the mental urge and replacing the negativity with you're in a group, you're not alone. Here's your homework. Here's what you need to do. Keep showing up. I'm here every week with, showing up on podcasts and stuff. And how many times a week do you meet with your folks, with your members?
Oh, we have 6 hours of group coaching a week, and then we have a WhatsApp that's going 24/7,
Yes.
365.
Phenomenal.
Yeah,
That's your 365. So
yeah,
that's what you do to keep going. And then when you start to take care of yourself, you start to appreciate, wow, I'm feeling a little better. And your gratitude starts to grow.
I agree. I
Gratitude
agree with
doesn't happen overnight. And it's a muscle you have to
good
practice. There
point.
are days when I don't feel grateful and I don't force it. I just don't feel grateful today. I'm pissed off. I'm angry. I'm grumpy. Okay, fine. But that's okay. I'll get back on the gratitude horse tomorrow because gratitude's a steady diet for me.
I love that. And do you want to? I've got two questions. I've just got so many questions. I want to ask about your detox and what that looked like, but I also want to ask about, you mentioned that you don't always feel grateful in every single moment, which thank you for saying that because people are like, I could never be like her. What is the turnaround? What pulls you out of that Mr. Grumpy face back to your baseline of appreciation?
Right. Good point. This is a very big tool. So I'm a confidence coach for women, and I've been doing that for about 10 years. And whenever our lives are in the gutter, now some of your listeners are not going to like this, but that's okay. Fasten your seatbelts. The the
Lean in.
fastest way to get our heads back into a more positive attitude. And I'm not talking about toxic positivity. I can't stand that.
I know.
But just in a balanced, reasonable, I'm grateful today, or here's something that went well today. I'm a big believer that we have to go after the physical first, and that means get thee to the gym. Get outside and walk, depending. If you have somebody who's listening who doesn't exercise and is 300 pounds, the gym might not be the right place for them right now, or it might be walking. Okay. Or if you've got somebody who says, hey, I want to do a couch to 5K, you have got to move your body. Your body is meant to move. So this whole sedentary lifestyle has got to go out the window. Chair yoga, walking, exercising at the gym,
Something.
get a personal trainer, start to swim, take swim lessons, because those endorphins are essential to getting me out of my grumpy mindset. I don't
Mhm.
do very well when I don't have those endorphins going.
Yeah.
I
And
don't.
I don't know about you, but I rely a lot on self-talk. Like that might
Yes,
even be my number one tool besides
beautiful.
food prep.
Well, tell me about that. So when
Oh,
you're grumpy, yeah, let's hear
yeah.
about that.
So what I often do, and I've had some challenges in these past few weeks that have really taken me to my knees, things I've experienced that I've never experienced before. So it's new. It's new emotions and new situations I've been in, and I have had to rely heavily on me and myself being in a majority together and showing up in the kindest way possible, saying, I know this is hard and you're going to feel better. Go ahead and take your nap today, but tomorrow we might get back to a 5-minute walk. And you might just do some gentle talking. Like it's almost mother to child where you're getting that oxytocin release. You become your best friend. You talk to yourself like you would someone you loved and cared about. And that makes a huge difference. Even when your fears are at 100, you can help bring those fears down by saying, okay, let's talk about the worst thing that can actually really happen. And are those fears really true? Is there any other option other than what you're thinking right now? And how often do our fears even come true? I mean, it's like 1 out of 10. I don't know what it's relatively low, the things we
Yeah.
worry about that actually come to fruition. So, anyway, tremendous self talk. And that literally brings the room down and it brings that blood flow back to the frontal lobe here where you can think rationally again and calm yourself down. So, for me, I think self talk is one of the most beautiful things laced with compassion that you can do to help settle your nervous system.
Beautiful. And I like what you said. It's almost like a mother and child because you probably have some
Yes.
people listening who say, oh, I don't know, the self-talk, it's kind of flaky. It's not flaky.
It's
How would you
instant.
talk to a friend who's hurting? With love and
Hmm.
compassion, why wouldn't you talk to yourself? It
Hmm.
is not flaky. I'm allergic to flaky, and Paige, you're absolutely right. The loving kindness, self-talk, self-compassion, huge.
I don't know, not everybody is able to watch us. Some people are just listening, but one of my biggest tools is you put your hands on each of your cheeks and 3 times you go, "You're okay. You're
Mm,
okay. You're okay." And if you're in the grocery store or something like that, you don't have to put your hands on your cheek, but you can just repeat that to yourself. And
okay.
it's amazing. It's literally instantaneous that you feel a calming, literally like blanket you. It washes over you and you feel peace inside, especially if you're having a craving. If you do that, it will dissipate those cravings even faster. And if you're having cravings, just feel it and I'm just going to feel it in every cell of my body. And I'm not going to fight with it. I'm just going to feel it. And it just allows it to keep on moving versus try and fight it, fight it, fight it, fight it, fight it. Do
That's
you
beautiful.
want to talk about when you got off sugar? If you got like those first 3 to 5 days, if you have any advice that you want to give on
Right,
that?
right. Everybody's different, but what is really interesting about sugar in general versus getting off, drugs or alcohol, people tell me all the time, oh my gosh, I haven't eaten sugar in 5 days and I feel so much better. And I am constantly amazed that it doesn't take long for our
Crazy, right?
bodies to appreciate what we have just done. And it
Yeah.
kind of highlights how horrible we felt before.
Yeah.
But don't be deceived by that, because the physical is one aspect, but it's the mental that's the other. A lot of times we eat for mental, emotional reasons. So you got to
Hmm.
work at it from both sides. But the pull of sugar, the urge from a physical point of view, can dissolve in 5 days or 5 weeks. And
Hmm.
that's why showing up in your program 6 days, and listening the 6 hours a week and staying on WhatsApp will help you when you're white knuckling it.
Yeah. You've
But
got to have
every
support.
single week, it will get easier if you do the self-talk, if you get yourself to a gym and you start, you gotta, freedom is not free. You want to be free from this addiction, you got to pay the price.
Yeah. You pay now or you pay later. That,
Yeah.
and choose your hard.
Yeah,
Choose your hard.
I know.
Which do you prefer? And it's so amazing for you that you did this on your own 25 years ago when it wasn't even talked about. And it's just very difficult for people to do any of this on their own without support. So
Right. Right.
you are to be very much admired
Yeah.
for
Well,
that
as I said,
accomplishment.
I did get a personal trainer and I got a therapist, but the therapist was not to stop eating, it was for the anger, but it was all combined. But you're right, I didn't have anything like what you have now. Yeah. Being
I
interesting is amazing.
I am interested by what you said as you got a personal trainer and you started getting involved in other things. I mentioned that interview that I did for the Quit Sugar Summit, and Mike Collins was saying, "Well, didn't you like go through a depression, when you got off sugar?" And I'm like, no. He goes, well, like you got blue and you didn't feel good, And I'm like, no, that was never it. But you have to remember, I had all these other things in place already. I was already exercising. I had a spiritual base. I had relationships. I slept well. Other than the sugar, I did pretty much eat healthy. So I think it does help. And which is why I made that point earlier about we don't always have to start with food. If there's other things killing you more, we can start with other things and build up this background of resources to help with the dopamine levels, right? Because the brain's looking for dopamine. That's what the sugar gives it. And what does it want? It wants more. It doesn't care. It doesn't know which addiction. It just wants more is the word that it wants. It wants more dopamine. That's what the addictive part of the brain feeds off of. So, yeah, when you have these other systems in place, that helps mitigate maybe a depression that would come
Beautifully
afterwards.
said. Yeah, mitigate the depression. Yep.
Hmm. Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent.
So I want to talk about another thing that comes up a lot, and there's quite an argument on both sides of the fence about this. A lot of people worry that abstinence will eventually feel restrictive or joyless. And I want to talk about if you perceive being off sugar as restrictive, or do you look at it as guardrails and opening up for actually a bigger, better life?
This is one of my favorite subjects. So
Me too.
I should put the 3-minute egg timer on so that I don't go on and on and on. This is a great excuse for people to not get off the sugar. I don't want to be in a food straitjacket.
Yeah,
I get it.
yeah,
I felt that way too. It's an excuse. It's an excuse. The truth is freedom isn't free. Discipline is freedom. Discipline is
agree.
freedom. I think discipline is one of the greatest gifts we can give ourselves. And I don't know whether, maybe it's me, Paige, but I think our culture these days is sort of allergic to discipline. I don't know. It's like, oh, I want to do my own thing. I want to be an individual. Well, okay, but if you can't and you are struggling and you showed up in Paige's program, clearly you have a problem. And discipline will set you free. So you have to change your mindset. You got to turn it 180 degrees around and say, I'm getting out of jail. Every day I eat that crap, I'm keeping myself in jail. The problem is the sugar is lying to you. Your mind is lying to you. I
Yeah,
keep that under 3 minutes.
yeah. Good job. Um, and The other beautiful thing is the longer you're off sugar, your taste buds change. You really, I mean, do I still get cravings? I do, but they're at a 3, not a 10.
Yeah.
They're manageable
Mhm.
now. And when I talked a minute ago about just feeling it and let them kind of wash on through you, it's easier done. It really, if you just sit there and feel it little discomfort for a minute, it will fade and pass away. Do you agree with that? Do you feel like
Yes, get
you?
tough. Get tough with yourself. So what if you're having a craving? Kick yourself in the butt. And here's one thing you can do. You can go in the I do this a lot, and I'm 25 years. If I have a craving, I go get off my butt and I go in the bathroom. I get the cravings after dinner for stuff. I'll go in the
Yes.
bathroom and brush my teeth, and I wash
Hmm.
my mouth out with mouthwash. Well, you
Hmm.
have to make the decision to get to the bathroom to do that. But once you do it, you don't, you kind of the craving goes away because your mouth is all clean and minty and all that stuff. But really, there's an opportunity to kick yourself in the butt and say,
You know what else you're
myself,
doing? Uh, When you're doing that too, is you're up and you're moving, you're changing your position.
yes,
Change your location, change your location, change your location. And also you're distracting and you have other thought patterns going on. All of those things help move the cravings on out the door a little bit sooner. So that's actually a brilliant recommendation on several different levels. Not that it just changes the taste in your mouth, which it does, which is perfect. But yes, actually moving does kind of shake it through. You know how a dog just shakes whenever like they'll have a start or they'll be started, they'll just kind of shake. They're literally emoting. So moving those emotions through. So getting up and moving around does help you, and focusing on something else actually changes the brain. And you're also having sensory experiences too. So all those things are beautiful. And another thing that I like to add in there is, especially in the nighttime, you mentioned after dinner, you
yeah,
can get cravings, which I appreciate you saying that so people don't think that you're just living this perfect, easy life that you've never had to battle it. One,
not at all, not
yeah,
at all.
I'm glad we brought that up. Um, what you can say to yourself too in those moments are, what am I really needing? Because when we get emotions, they have meaning attached to them and they're just trying to be heard and processed. So if we can not ignore them, if we can talk back to them, what is it you're looking for? Just that mother to child again, what can I do for you?
Love
What is
that.
it you're really needing? Usually it's boredom. The answer is always comfort in some way. If we break it down, peel it back, peel it back, peel it back, we're looking for comfort in some way. But what is it that you're needing? How can I comfort you right now? If food weren't an option, what would that look like that you could do this evening that would bring joy to your life versus regret later when you go to bed?
Great, beautiful. And a lot of people, it's loneliness too, boredom or loneliness.
Totally.
Mm,
Totally. Especially those evening hours, you've got decision fatigue and
yeah.
and you do want to be comforted. I really like this topic of restriction too, because there are people that say, whenever you just tell me I can't, that's all I want to do is have it. And I could never be someone who just totally restricts myself. So I don't look at it like restriction. I look at it like you as guardrails and safety for my life. And in fact, on the gratitude topic, I'm grateful. I'm so grateful because I'm not continually making this will, I won't, I will, I won't, I will, I won't, I decision. I've made one decision. And so I'm not driving myself absolutely insane with having to remake that decision, especially in the moment if a craving is coming up. Okay, well, isn't tonight the night I will? And then you're on a slippery slope of sliding right back into old habits and patterns because our brains are neuroplastic, right? They change and you start laying down tracks. They're going to get, you drive the same way to the grocery store, you just are on automatic. And we don't want to lay those addictive tracks back down on our brain. We're trying to rewire those addictive patterns. So we're literally resetting to those normal factory settings that how we came here and get back to eating in a way that our bodies were designed to eat, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just
The
like
way
we
our
say,
bodies were designed to eat.
yeah,
Beautiful.
like you don't see any fat deers in the wild, right? Because they're eating as their bodies were designed to eat. And when our dogs get heavy, it's because we're feeding them
Yeah.
table scraps and things like that, right? So anyway, I got off a little bit, but that is a huge topic that some people push back about that restriction, and I'm not going to
And the
say,
restriction, I want to emphasize the restriction is the addiction. It's not
yeah,
you, it's you got to take accountability for it, but it's not the real you. The real you wants to break free of this, but you are so in hostage to the belief that this is too restrictive. I could never do what you're doing, Paige.
yeah.
That is BS, and it's not the real you talking. It's the addiction talking.
Yeah, I agree with that. And the restriction is always, or the addiction is always scanning the room looking for opportunities. And so, okay, let's dial in on this restriction topic. And I'm just going to say that's too restrictive for me. And it just sends me straight to the food.
Right.
Well, I mean, okay, how's that working? Is that,
Right.
has
How's
that,
that working?
has that gotten you closer to your goals?
Gladly
And,
your misery.
hmm yeah.
Can I
Um,
can I jump in and say
yeah,
something else
yeah, yeah,
that
yeah.
um, this is one very important component, which probably you talk about all the time, but I'd like to emphasize, and I coach this with my ladies too, is when you're going to get off the sugar, or you're making the decision to get off the sugar, you have to replace it with something juicier that tastes better. So what is your why? What is your reason for giving it up? Well, yeah, I got type 2 diabetes. I'm 40 pounds overweight. I don't have any energy. And I say, yeah, that's huge. That's very, very, very important. But frankly, it's a little boring. It's boring. Give me some more reasons. Well, I'm 40 years old and I haven't had a date and I kind of want to, okay, keep telling, tell me more, tell me more. And I pull it out of them. And you really want to really, and maybe this is something, if you haven't done it, to really focus on. I want three good whys from all of you who are in my program as to why you want to get off the sugar. And it's got to be juicier than, well, I got type 2 diabetes. Now, you and I find that it's very important. But
Yes.
one woman I worked with, she finally broke down and she said, well, I'm 40 years old, I'm 40 pounds overweight. And my mother made fun of me when I was in eighth grade and said, I'll never marry anybody and always be overweight. And she's right, because I've never married and I'm overweight. And you know, Laura, she finally said to me in tears, I just want to look beautiful when I walk into a room.
Oh.
And I said, Sarah, that's your why. And
Hmm.
it was so emotional and was so juicy to her that that was a very powerful reason for her to say, yeah, I can put down the Snicker bar because I care more about the eighth grade teenager in me that missed,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
your whys are, I have like five or six whys. Some I don't share with people, they're very private, and others I share freely. Your
What's
why,
your biggest benefit? What's your biggest benefit for being off sugar that keeps
right.
you?
Are you asking
Yeah,
me or
yes. Yeah, I'm
oh,
asking you.
so my big, well, one of my, this is a why that I can say publicly because every day that I'm off sugar and I'm going to the gym and I feel fit and I'm grateful, I'm reclaiming a childhood that went down the tanks. It's very painful
Oh.
to look back on 48 years and say my life was a shit show. Really
Hmm.
painful. And I want to go out in flames saying, my day was great today. So every day I'm clean off of sugar, I have reclaimed a life that I didn't have.
Yeah. I like that thought that when you go to bed at night, you want to get up and do your life again. You want a life you don't want to escape from.
Mhm.
And for me, kind of one of my whys is I don't want to be in constant fear of when are the monsters going to come out of the closet and get me
Oh,
again because that's so
oh,
traumatic and so scary. And it
oh.
opened up my brain to think about other things because, like I said, otherwise the addiction is running the show and it's when am I going to get my next hit? When am I going to get my it's a very you're working the addiction around life. I mean, you're working life into the keeping the addiction satisfied and what am I going to get for breakfast, what am I going to get for lunch. It's very time consuming. I mean, you don't have time to be your true authentic self because you're so wrapped up in feeding the addiction in quotes that it's just it totally occupies your mind all day long. And
It's
I
exhausting.
exhausting to keep it alive and to keep it alive and keep it secret all at the same time.
Oh, and I like
So,
what you said. You said, "I'm so terrified of that demon coming out of the closet and wreaking
yeah,
havoc." And you know, that is a painful why, but it's a powerful one. In other words, pain is a powerful motivator.
sure.
And that works for you. So we don't want to be too worried about, oh, that sounds so negative. No, your fear, you're using that fear in a really constructive way. I will never go back there.
hmm Yeah. And what's so interesting about in those binge moments, I don't know if you felt like this, but it was complete lack of control. I mean, there was something else literally controlling my hand to mouth. I was full. I was sick to my stomach, but the brain kept saying, "You can't quit. There's still a few more Oreos in there. Do not stop. Do not stop." And I'm no quitter. And so am an overachiever in every area.
Even
And
eating.
I just, in this too, I wanted to be perfect at that. And it was scary because at the same time, you're in the fetal position on the inside. You don't know how much it's going to take to undo what just happened. How much am I going to need to over exercise? I won't be able to eat for days on end. I don't know how much longer this is going to last. I don't know how sick I'm going to be when this is over. It was trauma reinduced every single time.
Oh,
And quite
goodness.
frankly, every day was trauma because you're either in a binge, fighting a binge, or planning your next binge. And so it's just
We're
continual.
recovering and recovering from
Yeah.
the binge, recovering in a
Mm-hmm.
negative way, but saying
Mm-hmm.
that the binge hangover is what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
And I
Mm-hmm.
remember in this, I came clear on this about 10 or 12 years ago. The binging for me was I was wanting to hurt myself. I wanted to take myself away from the reality. The binging, it was fine for the first 10 minutes, but an hour
Right.
later, and I made the kind of correlation page. It was like I was cutting myself. Now,
Mm,
I've never cut myself. And I don't know where this came from, but I trusted it. Just my came from my gut. It was my way of hurting myself because I was so hurt after I binged physically. Couldn't
hmm
get up out of bed. It was like cutting myself. It was like, God damn it, screw this life, fuck you. And I just throw more food in my mouth. How can you
hmm
possibly do that?
hmm
You know?
Yeah, and that's when we need to stop. And that's why we also work so much with like trauma work and things like that too in our group because it's not about the food.
Mm,
I can't just put you on, give you a diet on a piece of paper and say, here you go. In fact, we don't even tell people what to eat. We never do that. We just say single ingredient, non-processed food. I don't care if you're vegan or carnivore. It just that it would behoove me to tell you what your body responds well to. So for me, I just have a well-balanced diet. I don't do any extremes, but you've got to figure that part out just within the single ingredient foods. What does that look like for you? So, I forgot what I was going to say now, but it was going to be really profound.
well, I
I'm-
think I hope your listeners are greatly comforted by this because you're not alone. You're not. We
yeah.
sometimes the addiction wants to tell us that we're different, we're special, we're really more screwed up than the next person. This is our little secret. No, there's lots, millions of people out there who struggle with this, and just listening to Paige and listening to me and our struggles, you're not alone. You're not different. We're all just bozos riding in the back of the bus.
Yeah,
You're
trying to figure it out.
trying
Just
to
trying to
figure
figure
it
it
out,
out.
right?
And maybe I was going to say that even just living in this addiction is reintroducing trauma every single day. And we just want people to be happy and have a better life and live a life you don't want to escape from. Those things are possible. So before I let you go, and I want to be respectful of your time, do you want to end with a message to the people that are listening about hope being out there and people that are stuck in the struggle? What would you say to them, people that are listening to that right now?
Well, first of all, I am grateful that you're showing up here and being willing to listen to Paige and her
Oh.
podcasts. And I'm very grateful that you have joined her group and are taking advantage of all the tools and opportunities she has, because that's the first step, is leaning in and saying, well, I got this problem. How can you help?
Mm-hmm.
Um, you know, and then I just, as a former addict and how good I feel, I just appreciate that you're taking the first step. But
Yeah.
you gotta figure out your whys, because if your whys aren't strong enough, you're gonna just keep relapsing. You've
Mm-hmm.
got to replace the sugar with something far more delicious. And Paige and her group will help you. You really
Mm-hmm.
want to focus on that. Maybe you do a whole seminar on what are your whys and you share them, because you got
Mm-hmm.
to get jazzed up about it. Without your
Mm-hmm.
whys, you're going to relapse.
Yeah.
Then make your decision. And
Yeah.
life is not all peaches and cream. It isn't for
Mm-hmm.
anybody, but you can find ways to move beyond, and one other thing, which, when I get cravings, if and I go in the bathroom and brush my teeth, also I keep things in the refrigerator, very important, that satiate me, like watermelon. Oh my God, I
Yes.
love frickin' watermelon, but I never ate it before because it couldn't compare to Haagen-Dazs ice cream or cookie dough. I don't want watermelon or honeydew or get that crap out of my, I don't want that. But now watermelon is amazing. And if I binge on watermelon, who cares?
Right.
You know?
Your
So you
taste
gotta
buds
get
change.
replacement food. Hmm?
Yes, your taste buds do change.
They
They,
do. Well,
yeah.
an organic apple can never compete with M&Ms. So once you get the M&Ms out, and it might take a couple of months, you cannot imagine how delicious an organic apple is.
Yeah.
You
Everything
cannot imagine.
Cosmic Crisp are my favorite. That's my all-time
Oh,
favorite apple.
yes. They are incredible. Oh, they're too expensive. Okay, we'll refund your misery and you can go on your diabetes uh
Yeah.
meds and all that. Hey, look, everything's expensive and I don't mean to be sarcastic. I feel your pain. Everything's expensive, but
Yeah.
I'm on no meds and I'm 72. Now, part of that's genetic, but look, I'm here to root and cheer you guys on. So good for you for showing up and listening. Stay with Paige, stick with her, never fricking give up on yourself.
Yeah.
Never.
And I the you just mentioned your age, so I'll bring up something about that as far as mental clarity as we age. Talk about the benefits that come with aging and eating properly and
Oh my
exercising and
God.
taking care of yourself. I,
Huge.
huge,
Huge.
huge. I that there's many studies that show how eating right and exercise impacts the brain literally as we age.
I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Yeah.
Okay, anything else you want to end with? And maybe you can share where people can find you?
Yes, lauraeiman.com.
Okay.
Laura, E as in Edward, M as in Mary, N as in Nancy. And I'm on Instagram and TikTok. You can just search Laura Eiman. Stick with Paige, hang out and do you you get what you give. So make the effort.
Yeah,
And it's so much harder to be in the dysfunction than it is to be clean. So much harder.
I
So
agree with that.
very lucky that that you have found Paige and stick with her and participate on WhatsApp and support each other.
Yeah.
And I'm grateful
Thank you.
you asked me to be here today. It's an honor.
Yeah. I'm going to have to ask you to come back again.
I would love to anytime, anytime. I want to connect with your people that are on there, maybe a call sometime or, when you're doing a workshop.
Oh,
Happy to
that'd be
help.
great. Yeah. Thanks, guys. And thanks for being with us today. And if you want to find out more about us, you can find us at realfoodrecovery4u.com. That's the number 4 and the letter U. And the Real Food Recovery book is out on Amazon. Real Food Recovery. If food isn't the answer, what's the question? Thanks so much, guys, and see you next time. Bye bye.